Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I've been ice fishing on Lake Superior since I was 10 years old. My dad taught me how to drill through the thick ice, bait a line, and wait in silence for the twitch of a rod. I always loved the solitude, the hush of the snow, the feeling of being swallowed by a white, frozen world. But this past winter, something changed. Something was wrong. It started with a deep need to get away. City noise, job stress, people in general, they all got to me. So in early December, I packed up my old truck and drove north. I wanted to be alone. I wanted peace. I set up my ice shack farther out than usual, maybe a mile past the usual fishing crowd. Just me, a small propane heater, a cot, some supplies, and the ice beneath me that stretched out like an endless sheet of glass. The first night was cold, brutally cold. The kind of cold that makes your teeth ache and your skin feel like paper. I wrapped myself in layers, made some soup from a can, and sat by the heater with a book and a cheap flashlight. Wind battered the sides of the shack, and the ice creaked beneath. But that's normal. The ice always talks. It was the second night when things got strange. Around 2 a.m., I was half asleep in my cot when I heard noise. Not just the wind or the ice groaning under its own weight. It was sharper, a dragging sound, claws, or something like claws, scraping along the outside wall of the shack. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The heater hissed beside me, the only sound inside. Scraping. I slowly reached for my flashlight. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I thought bear, wolf, but bears hibernate, and wolves don't scratch like that. I clicked the flashlight on and turned toward the window, brushing away the thin layer of frost that had built up on the inside. That's when I saw it. A shape, tall, gaunt, standing just a few feet away in the snow. My beam of light hit its face, or what should have been a face. It wasn't human. It was a skull, stretched tight with cracked, grayish skin. Its mouth hung open, teeth long and jagged like broken icicles. Hollow, empty eyes stared back at me, and above its head were antlers. Real, bone-white antlers curling like they grew out of its skull. I blinked. I swear I only looked away for a second. But when I looked back, it was gone. Just gone. I didn't sleep that night. Sat there, wide awake with my flashlight on and a knife in my hand. In the morning, I forced myself outside to look. I needed proof that I hadn't lost my mind. And I found it. Hoof prints, clear as day, stamped in the snow, leading from the woods to my shack. But there were no prints going back. No wind had swept them away. No snow had fallen. Just a trail that stopped at my door. I told myself it was a moose. Some kind of big buck. Maybe I'd hallucinated the rest. Maybe the isolation was getting to me. I stayed anyway. That was my mistake. Night 3. I loaded my old rifle and kept it beside me on the cot. Heater on low. Lights out. Just listening. It was colder than ever. So cold I thought the ice would crack open and swallow me. Around midnight, I heard breathing. Not mine. Not wind. Something slow. Wet. Like lungs that hadn't taken air in 100 years. It came from right outside the shack. Then a whisper. Faint, dry as ash, but clear. My name. David. I nearly dropped the rifle. I didn't move, didn't breathe. David, I squeezed my eyes shut, told myself it wasn't real, that I was imagining it. Then the wall behind me creaked. Something was leaning against it, pressing into the thin plywood, almost curiously. I sat there until sunrise, rifle in hand, praying. When daylight came, I burst out of the shack and left everything. The heater, my gear, my rods, even the fish I'd caught. Drove until I reached the nearest town. I didn't tell anyone what I saw. Not then. Not until now. I looked it up later. Native legends. Stories about a creature that comes in the winter, stalking the hungry and the lost. A creature born of cold, of cannibalism, of human despair. The Wendigo. That's what it was. Not an animal. Not a man. Something in between. A hunger that wears a face. I still dream about those hollow eyes. Still hear that whisper in the dead of night. And the worst part? Sometimes, when I'm alone, I whisper my own name, just to make sure it wasn't me that called it first. Story 2. Last winter, my cousin Danny and I decided to go hiking deep into the forests of northern Ontario. Just us, a couple of snowshoes, some jerky and beans, and the kind of overconfidence that comes from watching too many survival shows. We've been doing this since we were kids. Winter hikes, roughing it in the cold, chasing that silence you only find when the world's been buried under 2 feet of snow. Before we left, a gas station clerk warned us in that half-joking, half-serious tone people use when they're not sure if they want you to laugh or listen. He said, "Watch yourselves out there. These ones got stories. Wendigo stories." We laughed, loudly. Danny even mimicked a monster voice. "Creatures that stalk the cold," the guy said. "Eat the lost." We nodded, thanked him for the fuel and propane, and left with a smirk. But I swear by the 3rd night, that laughter had turned into something brittle and thin. Day 1 was easy. Clear skies, a decent trail, even a rabbit or 2 bounding across the snow like something out of a postcard. We camped under a thick cover of pines and boiled snow to make coffee. The moon was low and full, and we joked that it felt like the start of a horror movie. Day 2, the weather shifted. Not a storm, just a deep, aching cold that crawled under our jackets and settled into our bones. The kind of cold that makes silence feel louder. It also did something strange to our compass. It spun like it was drunk. At first we thought maybe we'd packed a defective one, but Danny had a backup. Same thing. We weren't worried yet, just annoyed. But then we started noticing something that gnawed at us. We kept circling back to the same dead tree. I remember it clearly. Its trunk was split from the base all the way up like lightning had struck it, but the edges were jagged and shredded, like claws had ripped through. We passed it 3 times, and each time, it was there, standing like a warning. That night, we camped in a thicket, trying to block the wind. The fire crackled low. I stayed up while Danny snored beside me. Around 3 a.m., he shook me awake. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. I listened. At first, nothing. Then, crunch, crunch, crunch. Slow, deliberate footsteps in the snow. I grabbed the flashlight and called out, "Hello? Anyone out there?" The steps stopped. Silence folded in over us like a blanket. Heavy, thick. Then, screech. A sound I'll never forget. Long, high-pitched and wrong. Like a moose dying, but twisted into something alien. It came from just beyond the trees. We saw eyes in the dark. not animal eyes. They glowed, but not from within. They were reflections, like light bouncing off two shiny marbles. And they moved, not forward, not back, but side to side, as if whatever it was tilting its head, studying us. Danny gripped his knife. I had the hatchet. The fire hissed as the wind shifted. We didn't sleep. At dawn, we packed up fast and followed what we thought was the trail back to the car. But the woods didn't look the same. The trees pressed in tighter. The light didn't reach the forest floor. I could have sworn we were walking in circles again, but the dead tree never showed up. We left hand-carved markers in the bark every mile, little X's to track our progress. But when we passed those same trees again, the X's were gone. In their place were long, vertical scratches about 8 feet off the ground. Nothing makes marks that high. Not moose. Not bears. Danny stopped walking. Do you feel it? What? We're not alone. Haven't been since last night. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to believe it, but I felt it too. That crawling sensation on the back of your neck, like someone standing too close. We walked for hours, only stopping once to eat, barely speaking. Then, finally, we stumbled into the clearing where we had parked the truck. It was like the woods had opened just for us. We got in without a word and didn't look back. It wasn't until a few days later, after warm showers and hours of sleep, that I noticed something. My jacket, the one I'd been wearing the whole trip, had 3 narrow rips on the back. Not slices like a branch would make, tears like from fingers. I never felt them happen. Sometimes I wonder if we were let go, if something out there played with us, like a cat toys with a mouse before the kill. And sometimes, when the wind howls just right outside my apartment window, I remember that screech, that long, agonizing sound that didn't belong in this world. I haven't been back to those woods since, but I dream about them. And in the dreams, I'm not alone. Story 3. I took the job because I thought I needed the quiet. The kind of quiet that wraps around you like a heavy blanket. The kind that lets you sort through the clutter in your head. After my divorce and my dad's death in the same month, I figured isolation was the medicine I needed. So when the Forest Service offered me a seasonal lookout gig in Montana, 14 miles into the wilderness, no cell service, no distractions, I said yes without blinking. The Firewatch Tower was ancient, built sometime in the 40s. A narrow, swaying structure with groaning stairs, a rusty cot, and a radio older than my grandfather's war medals. It stood like a skeleton among the pines, and from the top, you could see miles of nothing. Trees, hills, sky, and silence. I liked it at first, waking to the sound of wind cutting through the trees, watching storms roll over the mountains, reading by lantern light, cooking canned beans over a portable burner. Simple, cleansing. Then February came. The temperature dropped to single digits. The forest turned cruel, the kind of cold that gnaws at your bones, makes the metal in your boots ache. That's when the voices started. It began with the radio. Late one night, I was reading a Waterwarp paperback when the static kicked in. Not unusual. Those old radios hiccup sometimes. But this static had a rhythm, like someone was breathing through the other end. I turned the volume down. Still there. Then a crackle and whispering. Too soft to make out words, but undeniably human. I thought maybe it was the Rangers from Station East. Sometimes they joked around, pranking the newbies with creepy stuff over the airwaves. I picked up the mic. Very funny, guys. You got me. No response. Just that static. A low hum that rose and felt like a heartbeat. Then a whisper right through the speaker. David. That's my name. I froze. Cold sweat prickled down my spine. Maybe someone was just messing with me. That's what I told myself. But I didn't sleep well that night. Kept the flashlight under my pillow. Listened to every creak the tower made. Every gust of wind that pushed against the walls like an invisible hand. We laughed. It was one of those awkward, polite chuckles you give when someone says something weird and you don't know what else to do. But the man didn't laugh. Didn't even smile. He just kept staring into the fire, rocking slightly now. Back and forth. Back and forth. Then he said, I buried the last guy out here too. That was it. No build-up. No grin. Just flat. Cold. My blood ran ice. My brother stopped moving entirely. The night got quieter, like even the trees were listening. Excuse me, my brother asked. The man didn't respond. He just stood up, not in a normal way. More like rose, as if he weighed nothing. No effort. No sound. Just up. My brother reached for the hatchet again, slower this time. But before either of us could say a word, the man turned and walked toward the tree line. And then he was gone. I don't mean he vanished behind a tree. I mean he vanished. Disappeared. 1 second he was 5 feet from the shadows, and the next, nothing. No footsteps. No sound. Just the hiss of the fire and the wind sighing through the needles overhead. We didn't sleep that night. Not 1 second. We sat with our backs to the fire, facing opposite directions, gripping the hatchet and a hunting knife like they were made of holy silver. Every crack of a branch made us flinch. At first light, we searched the area, walked all around the edge of the clearing. Nothing. No tracks. No disturbed dirt. No sign of anyone or anything having been there. I looked for a grave, for any kind of mound. Nothing. Even the pine needles hadn't been disturbed. When we got back to town, I asked a ranger at the local office if anyone lived out in that part of the woods. He looked at me strange and said, not since the old miner cabins burned down in the 70s. Nobody camps out there anymore. Locals say it's cursed. I asked what kind of curse. He shrugged and said, depends who you ask. Some say the land's got a memory. Others say a man went mad out there, killed his dog, then himself. They say he never left. I didn't respond, just nodded, thanked him, and walked away. My brother and I don't talk about that night anymore. Sometimes we pretend it didn't happen. He got married last year, bought a house, had a baby girl. I visit sometimes. We barbecue, watch football. But one time, when he was walking me to my car, he stopped and looked me dead in the eye. You remember what he said, right? He asked. I nodded. He leaned in, whispered, I buried the last guy out here too. Then he smiled, but it wasn't funny. He was just scared. Same as me. I haven't camped since.